When the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, passed away, the brand new Muslim community was plunged into the deepest crisis it had ever known. And this wasn't just a political problem, This was an existential threat. So we're going to dive into this critical moment in history, a time of rebellion and incredible resolve that would really truly define the future of the faith.
I want you to just picture the city of Medina for a second. It's the year 632. The sun is setting, but it's casting this shadow of grief over the entire community. The man who had been their guide, their leader, their prophet, he was gone. The shock was just immense, and in that quiet, a terrifying question started to bubble up. What on earth happens now?
You see, the prophet's death left this huge vacuum. And I'm not just talking about politics here. It was a spiritual vacuum. For some people, their commitment had been tied directly to him, to the man. So with him gone, their faith just started to wobble. It was a moment where everyone's loyalty was put to the test, and the very foundations of the community were shaken.
So this rebellion, which is known as the Ridda, wasn't just one simple thing. It was this complex, messy fracturing of society. And if you look at the causes, you start to see this central tension. On one side, you have the raw shock of losing the prophet, but on the other, you've got this pullback to the old tribal ways, what's known as Jahiliyyah, that pre-Islamic era, and just plain old ambition for power. It was a total clash between this new, universal faith and these older, much narrower loyalties.
Okay, so what exactly are we talking about when we say apostasy or Ridda? Well, according to the classical scholars, it's pretty straightforward. It's intentionally leaving Islam. And this is absolutely crucial. It also includes denying something you know is an essential, mandatory part of the religion. That little distinction right there is the key to understanding this entire crisis.
Right? So out of all this chaos and confusion, the first huge threat starts to emerge. With the final prophet gone, other people saw an opening. Ambitious men started popping up claiming that they were prophets now, trying to hijack the whole faith for their own personal gain.
And what's just incredible is that the prophet himself had actually foreseen this. He told his companions about this incredibly powerful dream he had. In it, he was given these two heavy gold bangles. They bothered him. And then he was inspired to just blow on them. And when he did, poof, they just disintegrated into nothing.
The way this dream was interpreted, well, it tells you everything about how his followers were taught to see the world. Those two bangles, they represented the two biggest liars who would claim to be prophets, Musaylimah and al-Aswad. The fact that they were made of gold meant their claims were all glitter, no substance, all about worldly power. And him just blowing them away, well, that was a prophecy that their power was basically an illusion, a flimsy scheme that was destined to be destroyed.
But these false prophets weren't the only problem. Not by a long shot. There was a second, much more subtle threat brewing. And this one didn't come from people who rejected Islam outright, no. It came from people who were trying to break it apart from the inside.
The Quran uses this really vivid image, turning back on your heels, to describe this kind of spiritual retreat. It's not just about walking away. It's about doing a full 180, going right back to a state of ignorance after you've already seen the truth. And this verse, it became the defining warning for this whole period.
So what was their argument? What was their big idea? Many of these tribes basically said, hey, we'll still pray, we still believe, but they refused to pay the zakah, the obligatory charity. Their logic was that this was a tax you only pay to the prophet himself. They were literally trying to slice the religion in two, to separate prayer from charity, to keep one pillar of the faith and just toss another one out.
So you see, the brand new Muslim state was facing a war on two fronts. On one side, you had false prophets leading a complete rejection of Islam. And on the other, you had this much sneakier rebellion trying to chop up the religion itself. Back in Medina, a lot of the companions were confused, they were hesitant. How do you even respond to something like this?
And this is where Abu Bakr, the first Caliph, steps in. While other people were wavering, he saw the situation with absolute, diamond-like clarity. He understood that both of these threats, the outright rejection and the selective acceptance, were equally dangerous to the future of the faith. His response was firm, it was absolute, and it has gone down in history. He declared, "By Allah, if they withhold from me even a rope, just a simple rope used to tie a camel that they used to give to the messenger of Allah, I will fight them for it." This wasn't about the money. It wasn't about a rope. This was about the principle. For Abu Bakr, it was simple. The faith was a complete and sealed package from God. You couldn't negotiate it. You couldn't start subtracting things from it. His challenge to everyone was direct.
The religion is complete. Is it going to be diminished while I am still alive? For him, the answer was a resounding no.
And to drive this point home, he recited a verse that had been revealed years before, one that they all knew. It was this powerful reminder that their faith was in God, not in a man, not even the prophet. And it asked the exact question they were all facing. Now that he's gone, are you going to turn back on your heels?
And that was it. That unwavering stand from Abu Bakr, it snapped all the companions back into focus. Armies were sent out from Medina, and the campaigns that followed, they were known as the Ridda Wars, the Wars of Apostasy. They were fought not just to get political control back, but to restore the faith to its complete, whole, and original form.
And why does this matter so much today? Because that one stand, in that single moment of crisis, was absolutely decisive. It made sure that Islam wouldn't splinter into dozens of different sects, each one picking and choosing which rules to follow. It preserved the religion as a single indivisible whole for every generation that came after.
And the result? It was the complete opposite of what the rebels wanted. Instead of breaking the community apart, the crisis ended up unifying the entire Arabian Peninsula. The darkness of rebellion was pushed back by this wave of light spreading out from Medina, creating a stable state built on a foundation of complete, uncompromising faith.
Ultimately, the story of Abu Bakr and the Ridda Wars is about one thing: preserving the whole against the forces trying to tear it into pieces. And it leaves us with this really profound question that echoes down through the centuries, not just for this faith, but for any system of belief or principles. What does it truly mean to be indivisible?